Wow.
We're live. We're live. So everything you say will be heard.
Hello, Michelle.
Shut.
Miss you.
I don't hear it. Welcome to Newark Latino Film Festival presents. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Newark Latino Film Festival presents. I hope that you've all been enjoying the wonderful events celebrating el Dia de los Muertos, hosted by the Newark Museum of Art. How's everyone doing today? Good? I hear that you guys had a busy day, sugar skull candy making and makeup artistry. Please do tell us what your favorite event was today. Take a moment to tell us in the chat. You can ask us questions throughout today's event in the chat as well. And if you haven't done so already, please check out our filter on Instagram. It looks so cute. I'll be posting pictures myself. I hope that everybody's been enjoying the day though. So how's everyone doing? Welcome. Okay, so we're going to, oh, please don't forget to hashtag NMOA, Newark Museum of Art, Dia de los Muertos, okay? We're excited to be partnering today with the Newark Latino Film Festival and to end the day with a panel with the most awesome Latino filmmakers I've ever met. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Michelle Narvaez, and I'll be hosting tonight's amazing panel. I want to thank the Newark Latino Film Festival and the Newark Museum of Art for having me here tonight, and of course for having me the honor, like letting me host these wonderful people. So let's get right into it. Let's meet tonight's filmmakers. Each and every one of them is super awesome. They're all Latinos too, so I'm really excited. We're gonna go ahead and start with the only man this evening joining us. He's so lucky to be the only guy. How are you, Dio?
I can hear you.
So
Yes,
Dio is
great. How are you, Michelle?
Hi. Did you not notice you were the only guy on? No? Okay. That's okay.
Lucky me. Lucky me.
Yes, there you go. So Dio comes to us all the way from New Brunswick, New Jersey. He is a filmmaker, photographer, director. Tell us, Dio, how are you tonight?
I'm great. It's Day of the Dead, but I'm good. I'm great.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So I know that I remind us, where are you from? What's your nationality?
Right. So I was born in Mexico, but I grew up in New Brunswick.
Okay. So is maybe El Dia de los Muertos something that you guys celebrate at home? Is that something that you did you do something special today?
Right. So traditionally we would have a shrine for all our people that, passed away this year or before. But yeah, we celebrate with food, and there's a lot of festivities going on around like traditional Mexican families.
Awesome. So I assume it was a beautiful day for you.
I've been eating a lot like for a while now, so yeah, it's been good. The pandemic has made me gain a little bit of weight, so today was just another great day on earth.
That's great, Dio. Well, I hope that you had a great time, and thank you for being with us today. Let's move on to get to know our very next filmmaker. We have Alba Garcia coming to us from New York, but Boricua herself, right? She is a film director from Puerto Rico with a passion for puppetry in all forms. Alba has a short film now on HBO Max called Daco. I always mess that up. I'm so sorry, Alba.
Taíno.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. I always mess that up. But welcome, Alba. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very happy. We are enjoying the fall colors and everything. So yeah, it's about culture and staying together with the family.
Oh, beautiful. I'm so glad that you brought that up. I know that you just heard Dio had a wonderful day eating with his family as well. So I'm glad we're all celebrating together. Thank you for being with us, Alba. And we're going to go ahead and introduce our last panelist, Judith Escalona. Judith is also a filmmaker, writer, and gallerist, which I thought was very interesting. And she has multiple awards right now for her film called BX3M. Also, like screening at the Smithsonian Museum in DC. So lots of great things Judith is doing. Thank you for being with us, Judith. How are you?
I'm fine. I want to thank you and the Newark Museum and the Newark Latino Film Festival for just having us. I really appreciate it. And it's always exciting to be with filmmakers and having a dialogue, whether it's like El Dia de los Muertos or Puerto Rican History Month, which actually starts November 1st. This is
today as well. That's right.
Yeah.
We were talking about the day, we did mention that. So happy Puerto Rican Heritage Month too. Let's celebrate it all. That's the wonderful thing about being Latinos and having 23 different cultures to kind of share, right?
Yes, we could like celebrate. We have like a party like every day if we wanted to. Actually.
That's so cool.
Yes.
And Judith, you're coming to us from New York as well, correct?
Yes. Yeah, I was born and raised in New York. I'm actually, if anything, I'm a New Yorican, what they would call a New Yorican.
Okay.
I was born and raised here.
Awesome. That's great. So welcome, guys. I know that you guys have graciously shared your time with the Newark Latino Film Festival and the Newark Museum of Art. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. We're going to go ahead and jump right into your films, okay? Because all three of you shared your films throughout or there is a link if you haven't seen it. So if you haven't seen them yet, guys, check out the link. It's in the chat, okay? I believe that we just put it there. We might be able to pin it or something for you. But if you haven't had the opportunity, we have 3 wonderful films made by these 3 filmmakers here. And so we're gonna go ahead and chat a little bit about each one. And we really wanna know, of course, what your inspirations were and how you relate to the film and things of that nature. So we're gonna go ahead and start with the we'll start with Alba. That's just what I have up. I guess alphabetical order. And Alba, again, is the filmmaker of Toca Taíno. It's I did take the time to watch it after the first time you and I spoke, Alba. It is beautiful. It is a beautiful story, very like enriched in culture and traditions, and it's just gorgeous. So please go ahead, tell us a little bit about your film. Tell us what inspired you to create it, of course.
Yes, yeah, I like that you mentioned that, you know, it is very traditional. I wanted to go for it whenever somebody see it, they can identify to go to abuelita's house. The way it was set up, it was the way it was my abuelita's house set up, you know. Well, what inspired me was I was born in Puerto Rico. And every weekend, my mother used to drop me off at my grandmother's house in the mountains so I can spend the whole weekend with grandma. And that is what inspired that relationship between grandmother and grandchild. And my grandmother is Taína, both my grandmothers. And they were Taíno. They even have a conuco, which is a little garden with caña de azúcar, sugarcane sticks. And she used to have an higuera plant, which is where the higuera plant, you made these beautiful bowls that are
Artisanal.
Yeah, that. So basically, that is my experience with my grandmother in the mountains every weekend. And later on, I decided to do my film career in the United States because Puerto Rico didn't have the classes at the University of Puerto Rico. So I have to move. And when I got there, I lived my life, you know, as an arts teacher, animation teacher. And by the time I did Dr. Taíno, I was asked by Heather Henson, Jim Henson's The Muppets daughter, that she was asking me, Alba, do you want to do a Taíno culture film? Nothing has been done about that First Nation indigenous people. At the moment, I was working on an animated stop motion film, and I decided not to do it because I'm in full production. But then a month later, or a couple of weeks later, Hurricane Maria happened. And then I saw the abandonment of the Puerto Rican people due that the US administration abandoned the people who are Americans that live in the island. And I called her up and said, I am gonna take on your offer. And that's how Toca Taíno came up. It was the first time I had a voice as a Boricua Taíno filmmaker.
That's beautiful. Congratulations. It is a beautiful short film. I think it's a story that has I've never seen that, not on cartoons, not in movies, not on a TV show. Like, that's not what I grew up seeing. So it's beautiful to see. I think it's, you know, I shared it with my daughter, with my niece, with my cousins. I made their cousins watch it. It's beautiful. So I think that thank you for using your voice and making everyone's voices heard, because that's what it felt like watching it. It was beautiful. So if you guys haven't checked it out, please do. There is a link with the link to Dr. Taíno. And also it's on HBO Max. Super cool. Okay, so I'm just gonna skip around the panelists. Guys, if you have questions that you want to ask the panelists, please do go ahead and put them in the chat. I think there's a way I can see them here. Alba, absolutely. Like we're gonna talk about that at the end. We definitely hope that you will be making more things like that. Okay, so Judith, you're also, well, we were able to screen Schaumburg today as well. So I unfortunately, I watched Alba's film a couple of weeks ago when we had her at the Newark Latino Film Festival series, but I have not had the honor of watching Schaumburg. So please do tell us a little bit about what it's about, and how, of course, how you came to create it, because that's
actually, it's actually well, firstly, I think Alba's piece is really an important piece, and I really commend her for doing something that Taínos, and we could talk about that another time. But the Schaumburg piece it's about Arturo Schaumburg, who's considered the father of Black history. And a lot of people don't really understand that history and know the fact that he was Puerto Rican and that he came here before the Spanish-American War. So he came here in God, I don't remember the exact date, but it's in the film. But he came here. I think he came here in 18. Anyway, sorry, but it really traces his movement from Puerto Rico to New York, and how over time, and how he worked with Jose Marti, and how they were first like really pushing for the independence of Puerto Rico and Cuba. And then over time, after the Spanish-American War, and of course, Jose Marti was killed during the Spanish-American War. Over time, Schaumburg basically turned towards the African-American experience. And it was the time when African-Americans were actually moving north. And he had been already a collector of African artifacts and culture. He basically was showing early on that the African diaspora, as well as the continent itself, had much to contribute, had the arts, had its own history, its own literature, and all of that had been suppressed here in the United States, as well as in all the colonies, basically. But what it really reveals was that there was a context in Puerto Rico of free Blacks, like the Cordero family, which was Rafael Cordero and his two sisters, Gregoria and Celestina. And they had founded a free public school around 1817. And the great Impressionist painter, Francisco Oyer, who was from Puerto Rico, he actually has a painting of Rafael Cordero. But the whole idea is that there's a whole context of free Blacks in Puerto Rico, and that through those schools, like poor children, whether they were white, Black, or mestizo, or mulatto, whatever they were, they could attend that school. And it turned out all these like really a whole generation of leadership in Puerto Rico. So this is the context in which Schaumburg grew up. And when he leaves and comes to the States, he took on basically continuing his collecting. And so the Schaumburg Library that's on 135th in Harlem is named after him, because the New York Public Library actually bought his collection and had him working as the curator and overseeing that collection. And like, for instance, he was a mentor to Langston Hughes, and people don't really know that, and he mentored other of the Harlem Renaissance, other writers of the Harlem Renaissance. And he was already an elder when they were up and coming. And so that whole context is lost. And so through this little short video, which was actually a production, I work for CUNY TV. I'm a producer, a segment producer there. And so I was sort of experimenting because I wanted to trace where he lived and really try to imagine him walking down these streets in Harlem and just trying to get a sense of that. And I was able to interview Dean Schomburg, who's his grandson, about his grandfather. But it was it's something that interests me because so much of Puerto Rican history and Puerto Rican contributions to the United States are totally lost. Like, you know, I mean, we ourselves as Puerto Ricans or New Yorkers don't even know our history, you know? So this is like, so this is a way of trying to work with that.
So I thank you so much, Judith, for sharing a little bit about the film. Tell us what inspired you to tell his story specifically. Like, that's a very, you know, and there's a question that did come in through the chat. Do you happen to know where the last name Schomburg is from?
Well, there are two attributions. One is that it's a Dutch name, and the other is that it's a German name, and that his father was a Puerto Rican mulatto. His father was German and Afro-Boricua, and so the name is it's either German or Dutch.
Okay, and what inspired you to tell his story specifically? Is that, you know, I mean, I've never heard of, well, I guess I didn't study the Spanish word as intimately as you just described it. I learned probably more I'll probably learn more in your short film than I did all throughout all of school, but that's just our school system, right? But what inspired you to tell his story specifically?
Well, it's just generally that there's an erasure of our culture.
Okay.
And our history. And so also Schomburg is an important link between the Puerto Rican community, the diaspora here, and African Americans. But there are distortions always, like misrepresenting him, that he really didn't have that much of a Puerto Rican background. And there's a total unacknowledged reality about Puerto Rico.
Who he is.
So it's really fascinating. So that's what inspired me, because I also have a website that's very old. It's called puredream.com, and it needs to be updated. It's like 22 or 23 years old. It was the first iteration of the web, and it was also created as a way of disseminating information about Puerto Rico and the Puerto Rican diaspora. So, and it was sort of an experimental project, but it needs like total updating, but it was like that first iteration, and it's a very moving website. It has oral histories, but the idea was to, you know, continue with this idea of bringing attention to our history and how it's been erased. And then I was also interested in geographical locations where people live, how they might have lived, you know, just their surroundings. So, and that's why I'm in it, you know, like I'm walking down the street and I'm saying, I think he might have seen this as he walked, and how moving it is to be able to actually feel the architectural space where he himself, almost 100 years ago, walked down the street, you know, this kind of stuff.
Sure.
So, and actually some people that were living in the building where he once lived, they said, "What are you doing here?" And I told them that Arturo Schomburg lived here, and they were fascinated by that. They were saying like, "Oh, my own house here, this is where he lived?" I said, "Yeah." And so there's just this whole connection with history that I'm sort of fascinated by, and how it's sort of contemporary and yet it's the past. And when people learn that connection, it's sort of fantastic. It's just
awesome. I think so. Thank you so much for, you know, doing that. Thank for taking the time to share his life with us, and from the perspective that does highlight the Latino contribution, in this case specifically Puerto Rican. I know, like, as a South American Latina myself, as an Ecuatoriana, I feel like a lot of things are lost, you know, when we migrate over. So I know that we all feel that way. And is it really called migration if you're just coming from Puerto Rico, right? Like, whole bunch of things that we can discuss about it, but it's important to know these stories and really understand how integrated in the cloth, you know, not only Puerto Ricans, but all Latinos are here, right? So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and talk about our last film, and then we'll go ahead and break open to random, open questions. But Dio, it created Identidad, which if you have had a chance to check out, I have had a chance to check out as well, only because I've met Dio before as well. So Dio, tell us about Identidad. I think it's a beautiful short film, and of course, what inspired it.
Great. Well, I just want to say that I really liked Alva's like maternal film. Like it was very like if it almost felt like you could connect like on a very personal level, because it just felt like it was for like a family oriented, and it did remind me a lot of like the shows like growing up, like the puppets. That was like very, very nice. And also like Judah's film was great, like a very like historical kind of like summary of like Puerto Ricans in the US, but from like a one specific, Afro Latino identity. The film that I worked on, the documentary, it's kind of like a very like small, kind of like very, very short identity kind of thing. But what inspired it was the fact that I knew about this muralist that was going to come to the school to make a mural. He's actually based out of Newark, New Jersey, but he himself is Latino. He's Ecuadorian, and he also carries his own. Yeah, right. He also carries his own like identity, right? Like every artist out there. But what I really liked about Lenny, the artist, was that he used the whole migration and the Latino identity to like amplify it on a big wall, on murals. So he has done work like all over the world. He's done work in Europe, Asia, South America, all over the United States. So when I heard that he was gonna do this, I was like, at first I just was like, I just need to get this guy's photo and like have like a quick chat with him, and that's it. That was really like the whole purpose of me meeting Lenny. But once I was going to the meetings that they were having about the mural, Professor Carlos Fernandez from the CLAC asked me if I could actually like do like a quick little video. So I was like, yeah, I can do it. I was like, sure, I can do that. So I was documenting the whole process as it came along, as it unfolded. Like I was just making sure that I would get like a little testimonials of like the students involved. And I think the hardest part was just summarizing the whole process in like 10-12 minutes of because there's a lot to summarize, especially because when you look at the film, every participant in there has a different background, a different Latino perspective, and just having like 1 or 2 minutes of that person being shown on screen was like actually was more gratifying, just to have like, this is like my perspective of being Latino in the US, or this is what Latino means to me. And the fact that they were students and they were real people, none of it was like really staged. I was fortunate enough that they were very like open to just me having them on screen, and like just 2 or 3 sentences was all I really needed. So like at the end, you can kind of see like the whole development of how Lenny was able to grab their identity and put them on a big mural.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what the whole process was like. And there's like a mix of like music, there's a lot of like cultural sound bites.
Yeah.
I don't know sometimes like if you can hear it, but I think the documentary itself, it's very not only visual but very auditory. There's a lot of like music from like different parts of Central and Latin America, and it evolves. It starts very like monochromatic, very black and white, and then as soon as the artist is introduced, he gives life to these young students, and the process just begins to unfold.
I remember the first time we chatted about your short film, or your documentary, whatever. I don't know what you refer to it as. I'm sorry. But I remember the first time we spoke about it, and I remember how in love you were with the process. Like you were so excited that you were able to capture these people and this, this artist in their process. And I think part of what's, really exciting about that is that he has to reach into his identity and who he is and who they are. And I think that's, really that's what your whole film's about. We did have a really good question come in. Do you know what the mural is called and where it's located?
So the name itself was never defined by the artist. He was commissioned by the Center for Latino Arts and Culture at Rutgers University. The mural itself is in New Brunswick. It's actually at the
Center for Latino Arts and Culture. How exciting is that?
The CLAC, right?
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
amazing.
So for
we have a new building.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. So for everyone who doesn't know,
no, go ahead. Yeah, I know you were part of the class. You were involved.
If you've gone to Rutgers, New Brunswick, there's a beautiful little place called the Center for Latino Arts and Culture. I don't know if you guys have been there, but obviously Dio and I have, and I don't know, I can't say every Latino student's home away from home, but that's what it felt like to me and for many of my friends. And so it's really cool to hear that the center brought them in, or brought this artist in, and to see that his art is now at Rutgers University, basically, is what you're saying.
Right. So what's unique about it is that there is no other mural like it on campus. Beautiful. He's bringing in his, I guess, his street mural knowledge, and we were just grateful that he was able to put that like on campus. There is no other artist that has his work like that, and it's at the new building. It's on College Avenue, right across from the Alexander Library.
Yes.
So if anybody knows the Alexander Library, it's just right across it. And I mean, Rutgers in itself, it has been in this, is part of New Brunswick, but it's got a lot of history. And the fact that our little Latino, I guess, mural is there on campus, it's amazing, and anybody can see it. It's open to the public.
That's beautiful. I didn't know that, that it was on campus. That's pretty cool. Okay. So now that we've heard kind of a little bit about every film, I want to, there are specific challenges I'm sure each of you faced while creating or recreating your stories or telling your stories. So I want to, and we can start, with Alba and go in the same order again, but if you guys could tell us a little bit about what those challenges might have looked like while creating this specific film, and how, of course, how you got over, how you overcame it, because obviously you're here with us today, winning. So tell us a little bit about it. Alba, specifically for you, I'm interested to know if learning Taíno was a challenge for you, or if that was just, part of your being.
Well, I had to talk in different, the first aspect was I never did live puppetry before. This is the first time. I am a stop motion animator and designer and puppet maker, and that's my background. When Heather asked me to do this film, she precisely said, if you're gonna make this film, have to be live puppetry. I never designed a live puppetry, like live puppet before. So in this kitchen, I started drafting the designs for that character. We started making an animatronic in the head of the puppet has controls that can be controlled from behind the camera, which the eyes, the eyelashes, and the eyebrows move separately. We have a puppet for one hand and the puppet that for another puppeteer. So two hands, and then the same puppet that have one hand has the mouthpiece. So while he's animating the mouth, the person who is controlling the eyes is behind the camera, and they have to be in tune in order to follow the dialogue that they have to say at that time. So we have to have a structure on the shots when we are animating, well, you know, shooting the film, because we have to shoot it this side, this puppet, and the whole shot, exactly the same dialogue, so we can have different ways to cut it at the end for editing. Regarding the Taino language, I happen to know a person, Javier Hernandez, who he's a polyglot, that's the name. He knows about 13 languages, and he writes and understands and speaks those languages. And he took on himself on learning about the Amazon dialects from the people who live there, indigenous people who live there. So because Arawak language come from the Venezuela area, the Amazon region, and the Taíno indigenous people went through the Caribbean, you know, island, you know, going around the islands, different islands. That's why we have a lot of Taínos in Cuba, Santo Domingo, Jamaica, and the little islands and Puerto Rico.
A little history. I didn't know that. A little history for you guys.
So basically, he and another anthropologist that doing this film, I have to talk to scientists, anthropologists, polyglots in order to come up with everything about the indigenous language. Now, he wrote a book. It's called Taíno Borique Nike. You can find it in Amazon, and you can learn yourself how to make structure or sentences in Taíno and learn how to speak the language. He's gonna come up with more books. This is the beginning of the restoration of the language. There is a school in Puerto Rico called the Nahuaque School, and they teach using that book. They teach, and they've been teaching that for 15 years. So there is a generation of children from age 5, they learn how to structure sentences in Taíno. And so we are restoring our culture through language. So the little prayer that we have in the Taíno in the film doesn't come from his teachings, from Javier Hernandez's teachings, but it came from somebody in the Taíno community, Ramon, who created this prayer. And I asked him if I could use it for the film, because I heard this prayer before. So it's still woven in our history. So, and before, to put everything in perspective, you know, we lost our language. We lost the Taíno language. It is a matter of time that somebody like Javier creates this beautiful restoration book, because that's the beginning. But we have different Taíno in different islands, so the dialect will change. And one of the things that Heather asked me was, you have to talk to the community and talk to different people from the community. And that's how I decided to put that prayer in, even though it's not what Javier will translate, but it's something that the community already accepted. And I wanted to incorporate our community and the new people that are coming into the community, into that restoration of the language, will be for my feature film that I'm planning now. So,
and your short film now is actually, you know, helping to restore even the knowledge of your language. So again, you know, accolades to you. And thank you for sharing. You know, it's important as Latinos. I'm sure you guys overcome challenges as Latino filmmakers every day, but understanding a little bit about what your challenges are in these films, you know, helps us, will help us see it from your perspective as well. So Judith, I know that you as well, like your film is kind of like a solution or an answer to the loss of Latino culture or heritage. Tell us what problems did you face while you were making your film, and how did you overcome it?
It's a different situation, because actually I pitched it to do a story on Artur Schomburg for a series that I had been working on at CUNY TV. And so the challenge was having it accepted as a piece. And so it was accepted because CUNY TV is really, I think, a really outstanding place. It's like what PBS used to be maybe like 20 years ago or something. So there's a receptivity in terms of doing stuff that's you really don't see in mainstream television. So it's sort of interesting. There's a lot of flexibility. And so it's for me an experiment because I'm very much interested in doing many stories, not just Puerto Rican stories, but of course, you know, for in my heart, that's like really important to me. But I'm also interested in general, like bringing attention to different cultures within the city and through like very specific figures, especially women, because they seem to be erased or people don't know that much about them, and where they lived, what they accomplished, and how they were linked to specific communities. That's something that really interests me, among other things that interest me. And I actually did a Taíno piece about like 5 years ago for CUNY TV, actually. And so there are different groups, but anyway, so the challenge was like being on camera because normally I'm not on camera. And
Okay.
And so suddenly I had to be on camera. And so I just basically just took to it and just walked down the street. And then I had to edit the piece, at least to do a rough cut. And then of course I would turn it over for polishing. And so I just looked for shots that really pertained to the area where Schomburg lived. And I was at one point really moved as I was walking down the street. I was thinking about him and how his name was anglicized. That's in the beginning. And
Yeah.
His real name is Arturo Alfonso Schomburg. And now we just know him as Arthur Schomburg, but he was, you know, so
Arturo.
yeah, Arturo. And as I was walking down the street, I was like I almost got a little too choked up, and I was on camera, but it was I was just really moved by this idea of just trying to feel him, even though, you know, it's a construction on my part, just like constructing Taíno is a construction. And I mean, we could have a whole philosophical discussion about identity, you know, and Dios piece and, you know, Latino identity and stuff like that, and the complexity of that, and being part of the diaspora. And anyway, that's it. That's
Yeah. Well, I
that
wish
was my
we
challenge.
could. Unfortunately, you know, unfortunately we don't have the time to tonight, but I wish that we could. Maybe we should have a part 2 and just jump right into it now that people know who you are. Yeah, right.
You know.
Okay, so we're just gonna check with Dio and see if he maybe faced any challenges while creating Identidad. You know, was it like, maybe was it, I don't know, I guess your biggest challenge was probably getting in touch with the artist, but you tell us what your biggest challenges were.
I think the biggest thing was doing everything yourself. You know, I'm a one-man band. I go there, I shoot, then I have to edit.
You're not alone.
so I didn't have a crew, unfortunately. I didn't have the money for that. The CLAC was willing to offer financial assistance, but honestly, I was like, I just need to do this myself, you know, because when there's money involved, there's more pressure. And like, this was my only draft, and I submitted it, and they were so thankful. And I am obviously so grateful that the artists, everyone that participated was like, you know, patient, and like it came out nice. I wasn't expecting anything out of it. I mean, I did
And
one,
here you are.
and that's it, right? The rest is history. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to commend you. I mean, I know I'm not sure that you're the only one, pardon all that. I'm not sure you're the only one on this panel specifically that's a one-man band, but you know, to be obviously a student and a one-man show creating a short film is inspirational to, I think, everyone, but it should be inspirational to the younger people out there, right? Like, if you have a vision, if you have a dream, if you want to share something, I know sometimes we feel like, you know, we have to be all artists or nothing. And obviously Dio is out here showing us we can be students and artists and awesome all at once. and have a voice and share our stories. So
It was
Dio,
beautifully shot. I
Yeah.
loved it so much.
I loved it too. It was good.
beautifully.
So unfortunately, guys, we're wrapping up. We're getting to the end of our slot here. Let's see if we have any questions. Oh, sorry. I don't know if I went away. Let's see if we have any questions from the audience. I know I should be able to pull that up here.
I loved all your film, guys. They were great.
I
really
almost
like-
choked up on you this film because it is the history we lost, and it's great that now we have it. And yours, seeing these young men and women working on their identity and learning about that identity and putting and being proud of just putting on a mural, that was so touching.
Arturo was so you guys have been having this whole chat. I only see like little clips and pieces of it. But you guys have been having a whole chat here, going with questions and sharing. So that's great. Thank you so much for participating. Dio did drop the address to the mural if you guys are interested. The links to the movies are there. You guys, very sweet. I think there's comments on Schomburg and the colors on Identidad as well. So obviously you guys, your films are amazing. We thank you so much for your voice. Before we jump off here, please tell us how we can continue to follow you or continue to support your things. I can't wait to see anything any of you release next. I can't wait to sit down on the next rainy Sunday and look through all the stuff that you already have, all the content you've already created. I want to see it all. So
I'm actually, the best places to find me on Facebook, but my really old website is prdream.com. And there's that. And then I used to have a gallery because it was called medianoche.us, and it was in Spanish Harlem. But and the artists were international, so that's still up. But I have a film that was it's called BX3M. It has its own website, but the best place is to find me on Facebook, Judith Escalona, and then I have links to all.
Beautiful.
All
I definitely want to check out your. I'm gonna butcher it. BX3M.
Yeah, and I was actually at the Dominican Film Festival, which is just wrapping up now, I think. And so I did a panel on making a no budget film, a feature length no budget film. And yeah, so it's online and
awesome.
So it's just like all this stuff.
Well, Judith, thank you so much for being with us and taking the time to share with us tonight. It really feels like it really wasn't enough time to chat with all of you because all of you are so amazing. But thank you so much for taking the time to share Schomburg with us and discuss it with us as well. Alba, if you could just, I know I saw you dropped your, and maybe Judith, you can do the same. Maybe just type in your website in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. Thanks. And Alba, I know you did too, but I didn't get to see exactly what it said.
Yes, mine is easy. I am in IMDb. I'm also in albaegarciarivas.com, and my company is fantasiation.com. And right now in 2021, we are finishing up our stop motion film that lasted 6 years in the making. Based on an award-winning picture book, and I'm pitching my first feature film on Taíno mythology soon. So let's see what happens.
So a lot of awesome things coming. Please do check out Alba. If you do you have a social media where we can follow you?
Oh, I'm on Instagram, Alba E. Garcia Rivas, and on Facebook, Alba E. Garcia Rivas.
Beautiful. Alba, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you for sharing your beautiful film. And I only hope that this is not the last time we get to connect. And then Dio, if you could just tell us as well how we can follow you, get to know a little bit more about you, maybe go visit you in New Brunswick.
Yeah. I'm not at the class, guys. I'm not at the class. No, you can, I have a website and I have Instagram. They're both the same, Dio Cholula, diocholula.com. If you want to message me there, that's fine. I don't really use Facebook, so I'll post sometimes, but not really.
Okay. Dio's like too cool for Facebook, I think. Is that it?
No, it's I'm not
Just
gonna
don't
get
use Facebook. Okay.
It's just
So Dio, thank you so much for sharing Identidad with us as well. I know that I know you're working on things now, and I know that things, unfortunately, this time that we're in has kind of slowed some projects down for some of us, but I know that all of you will be producing great things, and I can't wait to see them. I hope you all enjoyed this as much as I have. If you're not able to view it now live, it'll of course be on Facebook forever. If you are watching now and you want to share it with your friends, I think this has been a pretty cool discussion. You definitely should share the links to the short films, if not the Zoom panel, of course. Do you guys want to just say anything before we leave? Oh, you can watch the links live until November 4th. So if you haven't had the chance to see them, you'll have a few more days to go in there and check it out. I think today would have been perfect. Of course, it was rainy and ugly outside. But maybe I can definitely dive in tomorrow. I want to, if you had a lovely experience today, please do consider making a donation in the link in the chat also. We're, of course, to support all the art everywhere. And then don't miss next Community Day, which is going to be Astrofest. Dum, dum, dum. It will be held virtually, but check it out with the Newark Museum of Art. My name is Michelle. Thank you so much again for having me. I do hope to see you guys soon. Thanks.
Yeah, Michelle, thank you very
Thanks,
much
Judith.
for having us.
I hope
Anaka
that
and
we-
she,
New York,
hibo ka to.
yeah.